Since the stock market crashed 4 years ago, people have been turning away from conventional pensions and towards property development. And the Slaters are doing just that. They're setting up a family business to try to build a property empire. But working with your own flesh and blood can be a recipe for disaster.
You know what? I asked you not to buy me clothes for Christmas.
I find that cold.
So many hours discussing this.
Pensions might be in crisis, but in an uncertain property market, bricks and mortar are not exactly a risk-free alternative. But the Slater family from Somerset are prepared to take the risk. They're taking on their first ever renovation job. It's an old miner's terraced house 40 miles from Cardiff in the village of Treorchy. It needs a huge amount of work, but has the potential to become a perfect home for first-time buyers.
Well, I think when we get going, the way it's going to work is that we'll all make collective decisions, we'll all be involved all the way through, but we'll all have our own sort of little niche areas that we're looking after as well.
We're rubbish at making decisions. Let's face it, it's going to be part of it. We each suggest our own opinion and then we just shout at each other for about an hour and a half, all storm off in different directions, and then, nothing gets done about it.
This project could get very complicated, as the Slaters had to travel 100 miles from home to find a development they could afford in an area with potential. But they chose well. This part of South Wales is one of the country's property hotspots. House prices here have doubled in the last 3 years, but you still have to work out your profit margins very carefully before you throw away your pension plan. So how much did you buy it for?
It was 41,000.
41,000. And what are you planning on spending refurbishing it?
Well, we've got a budget of 15,000, which is 13 to do it up and £2,000 fees.
And it's woefully inadequate.
Well, I was going to say £15,000. You said it. I personally can't see how you could possibly do this three-bedroom house for less than £25,000.
We've had a few quotes already, so we'd had a basic idea of what some of the things were going to cost.
Right.
We're going to do a lot of the work ourselves, so we're not going to be hiring in decorators.
So how much do you reckon you'll be able to sell it for?
Well, we expect to get around about the £67,000, £68,000 mark for it.
So you're aiming to make a £12,000 profit?
Yeah.
In theory, that would give them a 20% return, which in the present market is great. They bought the property for £41,000. Their budget, including £2,000 for fees, is £15,000. They're hoping to sell for £68,000, which brings them to their profit of £12,000 to divide between them. Is that quarter, quarter, quarter?
No.
Not quite, but
well, they've put the investment in and they're taking the risk, so probably we'll take a small cut just for our help and hopefully plough as much profit as we get back into the next project.
Yeah.
Right, so this is a long-term plan. You're going to be doing this as a family.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Setting up an enterprise.
If we survive this one, then we can probably survive anything.
But first, they have to make a success of this development, and it will be a difficult one to get right. Laid out over 3 floors, at the top of the house there's 2 doubles and a single bedroom. Downstairs on the ground floor there are 2 decent-sized reception rooms. Down on the lower ground floor there's a disused old coal shed, a very cramped kitchen, a good-sized dining area, and a decrepit lean-to. And at the furthest point possible from the bedrooms there's 1 tiny bathroom. In properties like this, the real profit margins come from making the layout work for a modern lifestyle. And that will take some doing here. So the front of the property here is below ground level?
Yes, 3 stories at the back.
Right.
We're hoping to make this quite open plan. Generally speaking, we need to lose up most of the walls because being the basement is quite dark in here.
Down here, the Slaters are thinking totally open plan. They're going to get rid of all the internal walls to the front of the property and create a large open plan kitchen diner. This is a nice idea, but they also want to demolish the old bathroom and lean-to and spend nearly half their budget building an expensive extension purely to house a luxury bathroom. I think this is an unnecessary expense, which with a budget of £15,000 they certainly can't afford.
In a perfect world, if money was no object, you'd rebuild this whole area here and you'd have a fantastic extension to the rear. But money is obviously an object, and I think that you'd be better off demolishing all of this area. Stick the bathroom in the coal hole. If you put the bathroom in there, then you've got a lovely open space for the kitchen.
This is the only bathroom in like a 3-floor house, basically, so we're hoping to get the nicest possible bathroom to try and sell it.
I think you want to try and get a second bathroom of sorts on the top floor.
We have thought of that, yes, but as I say, the budget's constraining us a bit, and it's actually going to be very difficult to try and get anything up there.
If they want to walk away with a profit, the Slaters need to rethink their plans. There is no need to build an extension downstairs. If they put the bathroom in the old coal hole, it would still give them enough room for a good-sized kitchen diner. A cheaper solution, and with the money they save, they can put a shower room upstairs, which would be a real plus for this property. 2 flights of stairs between the bedrooms and the only bathroom is hardly ideal for buyers, and neither is their vision for the ground floor.
So what's your plans for in here?
Well, we had the option of actually knocking this wall out and making one giant big lounge.
Okay.
But in actual fact, I think probably it's best keeping this wall here for separated living, so that for your growing family, you've got 2 different spaces. You can have parents in the back room, and this room can be multifunctional. It could be an office, you could have a desk in the corner with your filing cabinets, or it could be a home gym.
A home gym does sound kind of... I don't think there's so much demand for a home gym in Wales here.
I know, well, I'm just more thinking about trying to suggest many possible uses to a room.
You're most likely to sell this to a first-time buyer, and first-time buyers around here will want big living space, and they'll want this wall knocked down.
The Slaters are planning to leave the ground floor as it is, with a living room to the rear and an interesting combined office and home gym to the front. It's best to let their buyers choose how they want to use the space, and they can do this by knocking down the dividing wall and installing double doors. This kind of flexibility really adds value to properties. But the biggest problem with this whole development is the money. There simply isn't enough. They've only allowed £3,000 for the building work, and that includes building an extension and all the other structural work. There's just £1,700 for the kitchen and bathroom, £1,000 for rewiring, £1,800 for plumbing, and £1,000 for damp proofing. They've set aside £2,500 for all the floors and decoration, £500 for doing the garden, a £1,500 contingency, and £2,000 for fees, bringing them to their total of £15,000. Having an unrealistic budget doesn't actually help you to save money on a development. In fact, it's a really bad strategy.
I think there's a very big danger, because you've under-budgeted, that you'll either have to sell it for less or you're going to end up spending more, and you may well not make any profit at all on this.
Property developing with your family when none of you have any experience whatsoever seems like a very painful way to make money. But the Slater family think it's worth it and will set them up for the future. They've bought a property in South Wales, and even though it's a total wreck, they think that £15,000 will turn it around.
I personally can't see how you could possibly do this 3-bedroom house for less than the minimum 25, if not 30.
I don't expect to spend anything like £25,000 doing this place up, but I'm hoping to get it done well within 15 possibly.
It's week 1 of the development, and the deal is Tony and Jill will live and work full-time on site, without pay, while Mum and Dad project manage from the family home 2 hours away in Somerset.
They've got it easy, basically. You know, we get the really minging jobs.
The first of which is to strip out the entire property, and the children have got just 1 week to get it done before the building work is meant to start.
It ain't coming out, is it?
Hey, well done.
Move your feet, I've got it. Move your feet while I've got it.
It's going to fall on me.
No, it isn't.
Even with long hours and late nights, progress is slow, and Tony and Gillian are starting to think they got the raw end of the deal.
The minginess is just the dirt. I mean, obviously we haven't got a shower. Like last Friday, I sort of put my hand on my head and went, oh, it's stuck.
2 weeks later, the dirty work is done. And the property is stripped out, ready for a builder to start work. The trouble is, Ian and Carmel haven't found a builder. In fact, they haven't even finalised the layout.
This wall here is 10 foot, right?
They really need to get a shower room upstairs, and I think they should steal some space from this double bedroom, but they're not convinced.
Trying to fit a shower for you is going to be...
That's where the wall would be, and this is what you'd have left behind me now. Just over 9 foot by 7, which is...
You can't even get a bed in there.
Of course you can. Yeah, I mean, you could actually, if you turn that double bed around, you could get that in, but it'd be a bit of time. But
I'd
you
be hard
get
pushed to do a headstand in the corner.
Yeah, you can get a single bed in there, no trouble.
Making decisions by committee takes time, but eventually the Slaters make up their minds.
It's the same difference.
They are going to have a shower room, but it's not going to be upstairs.
The original bathroom is obviously going to get replaced because it's disgusting, but also it's now going to become a shower room, so
Nice.
it's going to have a lot more space in there generally.
A shower, a basin and a living
yeah,
room.
yeah. And then we've got what once was the coal hole, then it's now going to be just a bathroom, so it doesn't have a toilet in it.
Are you going to put a shower room on the second floor?
No, we're going
Just
to
a
put a
toilet.
toilet on the second floor.
So you're going to have 2 bathrooms down here next to the kitchen and no bathrooms on the floor where all the bedrooms are.
You've got 2 toilets, 2 showers, and a bath, and 3 wash-hand basins.
So,
And I think that should be enough
a
for
selection of
anybody.
facilities.
You've got an awful lot of facilities in some
Well, it's a
very
selection,
strange and random
yeah.
places. I would have thought that it would be worth the compromise of having a slightly smaller bedroom, and you don't need to make that bedroom much smaller to just have enough for a shower tray. And fundamentally you then end up with 3 bedrooms and a bathroom upstairs, which has got to be a better deal. But the Slaters are adamant they're not going to put a shower room upstairs, even though this will affect their asking price. Back in Somerset, the parents still haven't found a builder, even though the work should have started a fortnight ago. It seems Ian and Carmel have fallen at the first hurdle of project management.
I've phoned a dozen yesterday, and I've got another 25 on the list today. So I've been like 3 days now, every spare minute, phoning a few more builders, and it's proving quite difficult.
Ian and Carmel should really have organised a builder before anyone lifted a finger. As it is, the children are back at home twiddling their thumbs, while in Treorchy, the site has ground to a halt. Every day wasted costs them more and more in mortgage repayments. The parents' Yellow Pages approach is not the ideal way to project manage a development. Local authority trade directories offer a more selected list than the phone book, and the National Federation of Builders have developed a Find a Builder website to help you identify firms with the right experience for your project. Even if you're using a builder from one of these lists, it's still no guarantee, so always take up references. It's a good idea to find out what they were like to work with on their last job, and whether it finished on time and on budget. Always ask for an itemised breakdown and insist on a contract being drawn up. You should always chat to a few builders before you decide on which one to go with. No matter how much pressure you're under, this is one decision not to rush into. Finally, 4 weeks into the project, there's a breakthrough.
How long do you think a job it is?
In and out of this in a month, 4 weeks.
Oh, right, that's good.
They manage to find one builder who agrees to do the job.
Thank you, Ian. Nice little business with you. And you, 20.
Ian and Carmel are so happy to find a builder who's available, they haven't taken up references, and Tony's worried his parents aren't being careful enough.
Lenny came round and just quoted us on the spot for all the work, all in, and he parlayed with my dad over a few figures. They discussed sort of £8,000 and then £7,000, and that sounded good, so we went with it, you know. But it was very, very quick. You know, he hasn't given us anything in writing saying what it is that he's going to do for how much money.
Tony's not usually known for his caution. It's normally the other way around. I don't think we're being uncautious. We're keeping an eye on things that are going on. Really, I'm just glad that we've got a builder. He seems to know what he's doing and he's actually able to come and do it.
Happy with their builder, Mum and Dad return to Somerset. As project managers, Ian and Carmel should be concentrating on the schedule and budget. Instead, they buy another property in the Welsh Valleys, near Llanelli, which they're planning to rent out.
Well, I can't believe that you've already bought another house when Treorchy's not really exactly well underway. I mean, how much did it cost you?
This was 47,000. It's a bit of a snip, really, for around this part of the world, so we just couldn't resist it.
How did you afford to buy this?
Well, we only have to put 10% down, and that went down with the credit card, so we'll be paying that over the coming months and years.
So you paid the deposit on a credit card?
Yeah. But
we'll be able to...
Is that wise?
Putting a deposit on a credit card has got to be madness. The Slaters could end up being stung by high interest payments they can't afford.
We get a 6-month tenant in. At the end of that 6 months, we can then review the situation. We'll have sold Treorchy, hopefully made a profit on that. And then we might decide to completely refurbish this. But, you know, that's a decision for another time.
Right, so it's just to keep the mortgage covered in the meantime. I feel you're playing a game that you could come unstuck in. You're playing with a lot of money here.
Each property that we look at, we do go into it, we research it, we look at the area, you know, so that we don't really impulse buy. I mean, this came as a bit of a surprise because we weren't planning on buying another one, but we didn't just buy it sight unseen without any research.
And with this many properties, you really have to work efficiently and know who's doing what and who's responsible for what, because it's quite easy to let it all slip away.
And that's exactly what's happening in Treorchy. Mum and Dad are too busy buying new properties to project manage the development, and Jill's away, leaving Tony to deal with everything. The kitchen wall is coming down, and he's no idea if what the builders are doing is right or wrong.
I came downstairs and found out that the two builders who were here had just knocked the wall down completely. And they haven't used any acros, any props or anything like that, braces to take the load. Basically, what I'm going to do is have a chat to Lenny and ask him if it's all okay with him. How safe is it?
Oh, as safe as how's it?
Because I was expecting there to be, you know, acros put up and supporting it on each side and that. So
it's only a 7-foot opening.
We're expecting the RSJ tomorrow, is it?
Today?
Should we come in today? Oh, will it go straight in or is it going to go in tomorrow?
Somebody comes with the in.
Lenny's view is that by leaving this wooden beam in place, the house will be safe until the steel goes in. But Tony shouldn't be reassured by this. A structural engineer would always advise you to put in temporary supports when taking out a structural wall. And the longer you don't have them in, the greater the danger to the upper floors. To make things worse, the RSJ does not arrive, and the builders leave for the day without putting in any supports. It starts to dawn on Tony that he could be spending the night in a structurally unsafe house.
Hi, Sarah, it's Tony here.
Hello.
Hello. The builder's here.
Yeah.
They're knocking down that load-bearing wall, sort of between the kitchen and the basement room. And there's no acros, no structural supports in place. And I'm a little bit worried that my house is going to fall down.
You need to be supporting it until the steel arrives. If he will he not? He just won't do it. Have you told him that you need acros in there?
I just sort of asked him if we needed them and said that I was a bit concerned that the house might collapse, and he just said, "Oh no, that's fine. You know, it's good as it is."
Well, I mean, ultimately, yes, it could collapse. So
right.
You're right to be concerned.
Yeah.
Is he still there, the builder, now?
He's not. He's gone home for the night. Presumably with the steel to arrive at some unspecified point tomorrow.
OK, well, I mean, whilst I don't want you to panic, I think you should get some macros up, sort of, like yesterday.
Oh, well.
But Tony decides to let his parents have the final say.
Hopefully it should be all right. And Joyce is coming in the morning. So Lenny's the man on the job and he seems to know what he's doing, so if he thinks it's safe, then we have to trust him.
We've got a good deal of confidence in Lenny. We know he knows what he's talking about.
And so back on site, Tony decides to do nothing. Thankfully, both Tony and the house survive the night, and the next day the steel does arrive and the property is safe again. 9 weeks in, the Slaters may have an open-plan kitchen, but now they have to decide what to do with it.
You've got base units just going in a U shape, okay, and then the wall units with the U shape starting sort of here, so that the wall units don't go all the way back to there.
You could do that.
Too enclosing.
Mum and Dad want a U-shaped kitchen, but again, the children don't agree.
L-shape will give us a lovely big space with a free blank wall. I guess, I'm just into less stuff, more space.
But the fridge freezer is supposed to be going in.
No, that's the point. It doesn't need to. If we have an L-shaped kitchen, we can afford to have a built-in fridge freezer and we can put it here.
This is paralysis by analysis, and a whole week later, they're no nearer to a decision. So I've come along to try to mediate, if I can get a word in edgeways.
Well, Ian and I really wanted a U-shaped kitchen because I think it'll make the best use of the space. It would just look better than any other shape.
It'd be really small trying to get in there with, huge worktops on either side. You'd be sort of...
I don't agree. I think there's plenty of space there to go all the way around.
It's a very small room.
It's small, and I love just one completely blank wall because you've got your entire kitchen, you'll be facing as you walk in, 2 walls of it coming to the corner, and then behind you a nice blank wall of plain colour.
Yeah. OK, well, to try and be an arbitrator here, obviously a decision needs to be reached, and it's clear that you could go on all night like this.
We could go on all night like this.
So many hours discussing this.
Yeah. So a conclusion needs to be reached, and that's the important thing here. I think that it's not a bad idea to have a U-shaped kitchen going round all the walls, but I'm not sure that you need wall units going all the way round. Personally, I think I would be tempted just to have wall units on the end wall and have base units coming down both walls, which will visually give you a sense of space, but also give you loads of storage.
I like the idea, obviously, of all your base units going around, but when the wall unit's just stopping on one wall, just looks a little bit like it's unfinished.
I mean, you're going to have to make a decision here, and someone is going to have to win. Who's going to win this argument?
I think, really, we have to make the ultimate decision. I think it's about time I won one of the arguments.
It isn't quite the design I would have chosen, but at this stage, any decision is better than none. Their inability to make decisions is affecting the whole development, and their schedule is slipping.
You put us behind a few days. You know what I mean? Gotta lose a few quid on it now. So, not too pleased about that. No.
But a slipping schedule isn't their only problem.
Not only does it need to be inspected as you go on, you also need it to have a final inspection at the end. Without that certificate, you won't be able to sell this house.
And I think it is time to take our builder and just give him a good beating or something.
Ian and Carmel Slater have decided to jack in the pension plan and set up a family business to develop property in the Welsh Valleys. They're 12 weeks into this 16-week development, and for once the family are working together to clear the site.
I've never seen him do anything so energetic and so macho, and didn't know he had it in him.
Inside, the bricks are flying as well. The Slaters have finally decided they agree with me about knocking through the ground floor. It's costing them an extra £1,000, but it will make the house more attractive to their market of first-time buyers.
We have been advised by agents and people like this that it will substantially increase the price of the property, maybe up to £2,000, £3,000 if we knock it through.
All in all, they're feeling pretty pleased with themselves. And you can see why. The structural work is complete. The stud work is up. The house is being plastered, and they're catching up on their schedule. But despite Lenny, his team of builders, and the whole family working flat out, no one is actually project managing, and that's never a good idea. You've knocked the wall down here. Is everything okay with building regs?
Inspector came round and told us to put in a certificate of building works to be done. So
right at the beginning?
Right at the beginning, which we did.
And did he come and inspect the steel in position to see the size of it?
I'm not aware of anybody coming to do that.
Because they certainly need to see, when steels go in, they need to see the steel exposed. So, because then you see the size of steel for the calculations for propping the house up.
I didn't think the works that we were doing were the sort that needed the continual inspection.
Not only does it need to be inspected as you go on, you also need it to have a final inspection at the end before the certificate is given to you. Without that certificate, you won't be able to sell this house.
Okay.
This is all news to me. I'm just hearing this for the first time now from you. So.
Yeah.
You will have to expose the steel work, and he will want to have a look at it, and he may want to see footings underneath.
I actually assumed that if Lenny was putting something up that needed to be inspected, that he would have said, the inspectors need to see this before I cover it up.
If we knew about it, we wouldn't have had this thing skimmed. I mean, we were really pleased with the finish of that, and now if it's going to be ruined.
How do you feel at the moment?
Really pissed off. I think it is time to take our builder and just give him a good beating or something, because he's not being level with us.
But Tony's got it all wrong. It's always the property owner's responsibility to comply with building regulations. And though they're working flat out, here they're really paying for their lack of experience. And it's not only the structural work in the kitchen that should have been inspected. The work on the ground floor will have to be exposed as well, and they'll need to get the rest of their plans approved before they go any further. With the parents in Somerset, Tony has again been left on his own to pick up the pieces when the building inspector comes round.
Hello, Tony. Stephen Long, on the Tap Building Control Officer.
It's down to the painful business of exposing the structural steels. And even though Lenny's finished the building works, he returns to hack off the plaster.
Our first step will be to check to see if this steel is adequate.
And after looking at the rest of the Slaters' plans, there's good and bad news.
On the first floor, the concrete lintel that you have placed in to open the room up into one is adequate, so we don't need to worry about that.
Good, that's sufficient, that's okay,
yes.
That's good. The other issues really is the new bathroom upstairs and with the toilet upstairs.
Well, we've got to bring a drain from the first floor toilet, which needs to come down into a possible connection into an existing chamber. We need to bring it, find the chamber now through this ground and have another further meeting on site to discuss how your drainage is going to comply.
The Slaters have a serious problem with their plans for the new loo on the first floor. They only budgeted to connect the waste up to the existing pipes inside the house, but it isn't always that simple. The building inspector needs them to plumb their waste directly to the main sewer outside the back of the house. The trouble is, no one knows exactly where it is, and digging out to find it is a horrendous job that will set them back.
we thought we'd been through all the hurdles and all the problems and stuff, and we've just got the last few lists of things for the builder to do. He's got a couple of days' work. He'd do them, he'll be gone, and then that's it. We've got a blank slate of a house to paint and decorate, furnish, and we've seen the light at the end of the tunnel, and all of a sudden this is like, you know, a really big setback right when we're starting to count every hour as precious.
This is really bad timing. Tony and Jill have committed to a course. There's not a penny left in the budget to hire any labour, and Ian and Carmel are forced to make the 2-hour trip to Wales to dig up the sewer. Developing from a distance is turning out to be much harder than they thought.
It's just a waste of time travelling backwards and forwards, especially now when we've got to dash over fairly short notice because of the building inspector. And with hindsight, I don't think we would want to do another property this far away.
After a full day's digging, there's still no sign of the main drain. It's back-breaking work, but Ian and Carmel have no choice but to carry on looking.
I think we've gone down to our lowest peak. It's been the week from hell. So I really will be glad when this week's over. We've found all the drains, we've put the new drains in, and we're basically back to square one where we were last week.
Obviously it's going to put a bit more money on things as well, so it's eating into the profits.
It's not only the budget that's suffering. The schedule has also been knocked for 6. There's 3 weeks to go, and it feels like the Slaters are going backwards. But you have to admire Ian. He's not one for giving up easily, and he digs late into the night, and the night after that. And amazingly, a week later, the earth is still flying. Tony has stepped into the breach and has been digging solidly for 3 days.
It's finally, the pipes have been discovered. It's taken like a week and a half of solid labour. I'm just really pleased it's over.
Finding the main sewer is a real breakthrough, and with the drains finally connected up and passed by the building inspector, the site gets going once more. The bathroom units arrive for plumbing in, and the Slaters start preparing the house for decoration. And the development in Treorchy is not the only place where things are starting to come together. Across the valleys in Llanelli, Carmel's been busy showing people the buy-to-let.
As you can see, it's a nice big lounge, and there's 2 bedrooms upstairs and the kitchen through. Well, it's good news. I've shown several people around the house, and one of the first people to look at it has rented it. We were pleased to rent so quickly because we actually need the income to cover the mortgage on this place. So that's been really good news. If we hadn't have rented, it would have been a bit of a drain.
Ian and Carmel have been really lucky to let the property so quickly. But at only £340 a month, although they are servicing their mortgage, they still need to reach the top price for the development in Treorchy to pay off that hefty credit card loan. And that means getting their interior design absolutely right.
You know why I asked you not to buy me clothes for Christmas? The reason for that is that you've got really poor taste.
Well, I happen to like that. Now,
exactly.
The difference...
Case in point.
Listen, let me just concede one point. Let me concede one point.
Brown flowers. Lovely. We've had massive arguments, in hundreds of them, just because we like a younger, more modern look, and what our opinion of their look that they're after is a bit old-fashioned, a bit set in the ways and a bit comfortable.
The whole place needs to look like it just got the best spring clean and liquor paint that was ever put down. And that's not the decor that Mum and Dad would go for.
Once again, they seem to need an arbitrator. So I've come to Somerset to see if I can help.
Hi, you all right? Okay.
Yeah, very well.
You had a good journey?
Yeah. You're sitting here?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. What a lot of clocks you've got.
Ah, yes. Ian's got a lot of clocks.
One of Dad's many obsessions. Not guilty.
I find the modern look, the painted walls and the wooden floors, I find that cold.
I've asked Carmel and Tony and Gillian to put their design ideas together so we can try to find a compromise position, because they need to stop arguing and start decorating. Carmel has gone for ornate lampshades, curtains, carpets and vinyl, and the children for chrome lights, blinds, wooden floors and a dash of sheepskin. But neither of them seem to be thinking about the cost implications. You have a very, very small budget, which you've already gone over on this development, and in it, if it's at all possible, you need to somehow claw back on that. For example, let's look at the floor. Now, there's vinyl flooring on your mood board, which is a very low-cost, high-wear and good quality finish that isn't necessarily of the moment in terms of fashion, but it's not out of fashion.
All the houses that we've lived in, putting vinyl down in the kitchen and Dad cutting it to shape, not particularly well, and it staying there and sliding backwards and forwards.
You grew up on vinyl.
Putting more vinyl on top of it when it wore out, and I just...
Well, there's no question that whatever flooring that you put down, badly laid flooring, is a disaster. And then there's obviously the issue of your lighting. I've got to say, Carmel, they're both a no-no.
Oh, well, I like them.
They're still both a no-no.
Okay.
And even yours, which it's too much of a statement in that sort of development. I mean, those are expensive, and you are over budget.
I think that's how we're going to make the most money, is by designing for the young urban professional market.
I don't think there's much of a market for the sort of look that you're trying to create where your development is. You'd be better off with your development using fixed pendants and hanging pendants, so the fittings that you use don't need to be £150 a light switch. Therefore, you can get away with clever uses of less expensive products. 4 weeks over schedule, the development is in its final stages. The drains are just a painful memory. Carmel's U-shaped kitchen is going in, and the Slater family are out in force. Gillian and Carmel have taken charge of the decoration, and at last they've agreed on a style.
We have obviously got to bow to Tony and Jill's taste, because we're not trying to sell to our generation, let's face it. Well, really, Tony and Jill, what they say goes.
People are going to walk in and just go, wow, it's amazing. It will be. It will be, because it has to be. Otherwise, we're not going to get our money.
If the Slaters don't make any money on this development, Tony and Gillian will have worked for free for 20 weeks. And worse still, Ian and Carmel will have thrown away part of their pension. I just hope all their hard work hasn't been for nothing. Now, you're hoping to sell it for $68,000, which would give you a £3,500 profit.
Yay.
It's been a hugely difficult development, but the Slaters have finally made it. And they've completely transformed this property. Jill and Tony's interior design came together well. The calm tones and simple furniture will appeal to first-time buyers. A whole 21 weeks after first setting foot in this house, I'm back. Oh, it's all finished. Oh, this is lovely.
Oh, I'm glad you like it.
Knocking these rooms together is so successful, because I think what you've now created is a great sense of space, and because you can see out in both directions, and this is going to be a big selling feature of the house, isn't it? Downstairs, the first impressions are just as impressive. And Carmel's U-shaped kitchen works well. But maybe a few less wall units would have given a greater sense of space. But they never did revise their strange bathroom ideas, and have ended up with a real mishmash. There's a bathroom with no loo. And a shower with no bath. Both downstairs near the kitchen, and there's only a loo upstairs next to the bedrooms. If you want to have a bath, you're in here, you've got no clothes on, but if you want to go to the loo, because there's no loo, you've got to run through here with your towel, into the shower room, back again, saying hello with your towel on like this, back into the bathroom, and then when you want to go to bed, you go up here waving to all your guests again. How bizarre is that?
It's a quite a large house, so you could put, you know, a reasonable family in here, and you've got Dad in the shower room having a shower, you've got Mum in there bathing the babies, and somebody can still go upstairs and have a wash and go to the toilet.
There's no convincing the Slaters that putting a shower room upstairs would be better for this property. As it is, the bathroom arrangements are impractical. And they spent a lot more than they needed to, which won't have helped their budget. And you were originally planning on spending $15,000 on this project. How much did you actually end up spending?
Well, overall it came in at 23.5, including all the fees.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. I think to do this for under 25 is pretty amazing.
All credit to Tony and Jill, a fantastic job. They've run the site well on a day-to-day basis, and it's come through. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute...
Run the site well. The disasters that have happened.
There may have been disasters, but it's all credit to Tony and Jill's free labour that the overspend hasn't been worse. The building work went up from £3,000 to £7,500. The kitchen and bathrooms from £1,700 to £3,200. The electrical work from £1,000 to £1,900. And the plumbing from £1,800 to £3,600. The damp proofing rose by £100, the flooring and decoration by £300, and they came in £200 under for the garden. If you add on the £3,000 they ended up spending on fees, they spent a total of £23,400 on the development. You bought it for £41,000, you spent £23,500 on it, so that's a total of £64,500. Now you're hoping to sell it for £68,000, which would give you a £3,500 profit.
Yay!
Yeah, we have revised the expected sale price since then.
We're really hoping it would be worth more than our expectations, because, I mean, there's just been so much work.
Yeah.
To make their £12,000 profit, the Slaters now have to sell the house for £78,000.
A very nice bright room, obviously knocked the two rooms through into one, and done it very nice, very nicely decorated.
Oh, this is lovely. Great. Excellent that this has been knocked through again. The two walls here have been taken down. Plenty of natural light.
Ooh, this is a bit strange.
Most people, when they take a bath or have a wash, they like to finish their activities in the one room.
Yes, up here we have three very nice sized bedrooms. I think it might have been an advantage to see if they could get a shower room up here. Would have made the property easier to sell. I value this property at £72,500.
My opinion of value for this property is £75,000.
I would place this property on the open market for sale at £87,500.
We have had 3 valuations done on the house, and the valuations came in at £72,500, £75,000, and one random valuation at £87,500.
87? Oh.
If you take the average of those 3, it's £78,300, which...
It's not bad, it's not bad, is it? It's pretty good, yeah. It's exactly 10 grand more than we actually hoped for.
It's definitely a relief, because I'd have died to know the amount of work we've put in, blood, sweat and tears, to still come in at what we were expecting and make like £4,000.
On the face of it, the Slaters would seem to have done well. They bought the house for £41,000, and even though the budget rose from £15,000 to £23,400, if they sell for £78,300, they'll make £13,900 profit, nearly £2,000 more than they hoped for. But with 4 people involved in this business, that's still not going to go very far.
Tony and Jill, you've worked 20 weeks on this project. Even though you have made more than you hoped in profit, between the four of you, it is only £3,500 each, which over the 20 weeks that you've worked is less than the minimum wage.
We could have earned a lot more in any other job, to be fair. But then we're not doing this. We're doing this for the money, but it's more about a long-term investment, about helping mum and dad.
We wouldn't have got to the stage in life we're at now without their support, so it's, you know, I don't see anything wrong with that at all. Giving a bit of it back. Plus we've now sort of worked our way into a stake in what hopefully will be the family business.
So will you do another project?
Try and get something in Somerset, yes. In fact, we have already investigated the possibility of buying a barn over there and doing a conversion on that.
So is that your next plan?
That could well be the next thing we do. Depends on whether we get the barn or not.
You're very brave.
But the Slaters won't have a penny to reinvest unless someone is prepared to buy the house.
It's a nice space. You can't get much furniture in though.
It's an awkward space in some ways, but I don't know, I think there's a lot you could do with it.
Really, really nice. Because a lot of houses have 2 separate living areas.
Oh. Wow, this is nice.
Plenty of room for my little boy to be over there playing, and for me to obviously be cooking.
It's a bit strange, bathroom and kitchen in the same place.
God, it's a lot lighter than I thought it would be, thinking it was downstairs.
Oh my God, there is another one.
That's a nice view from the window, isn't it? Oh, it's good to have a toilet anyway.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
It's handy, otherwise you'd have to go
all the way downstairs.
I'm not interested in this house. I'm not putting an offer.
We probably would consider putting an offer in, but it'd be at a lower end perhaps, because of a few things we'd need to change.
I think this is a really lovely family-orientated house, relaxed atmosphere throughout, so yes, I think I will be putting an offer in for the house.
There's certainly interest in the property. Now the Slaters have to work out how much they're going to put it on the market for.
The market has slowed a bit around here, and I think that top valuation is quite toppy anyway. So I think it'd be safer to put it on the market at 75, which is probably nearer to the figure you're likely to actually get for it.
But then if you put it on for 75, and someone who pays 75, they're not all's well and good. But if we put it on for 78, then we can drop it if necessary.
What you want is it on at 75, 3 people wanting it, and you say, well, look, you all want it so much, well, what's your best and final offers?
After more Slater-style deliberation, they decided to put the house on the market at an ambitious £87,000. 4 weeks later, they haven't had an offer. This asking price is unlikely to give them the quick sale they need to release their equity and pay off their credit card loan.
Although renovating this property has been one of the greatest challenges the Slaters have ever faced, ultimately they have pulled it off, and Mum and Dad have succeeded in bolstering their pensions, although it is largely due to Jill and Tony working for practically nothing. And that's a luxury most developers don't have.
Next week, I'm in Sudbury in Suffolk, where a first-time developer's got some rather eccentric ideas.
We're seriously thinking of putting in an outside loo that flushes, you know, not that you've got to empty.
What luxury!